Hey, I'm a ghost who lives in the attic. I also have an animated background and I can talk to another camera. In this video, I'll show you how to do it. Do you want to learn how to create an animated background for your videos? You can watch the Blender Attic video to see how I created the background for this one. And here we're going to learn how to set up the 3D scene to match real cameras and apply some effects to make me appear like a ghost. Did you see that we have a ghost movie yet on Netflix? Ernest the Ghost was my inspiration for this tutorial. Let's get started. First, we need to shoot the material for a video. Then look up the focal length of our camera and measure the height from the floor and from the recorded character to create a virtual camera in Blender. Set the height and rotation to match the original. This looks like a nice frame. If we have a second camera in our setup, let's also take the measurements here and create another virtual camera following the same steps. To see if it's going to work, let's export single frame from both angles and place them in Blender. Looks okay? Now let's render the animation sequence with the first camera and then with the secondary. Once done, I'll jump over to HitFilm Express, import both image sequences, place them under the source material, and play the clip to see how it works. We'll add some grading at the final to match the colors. Now we can create the ghost effect. After keying out the green screen, I add a yellow tint to get a sepia-like color. Then I add unsharpen to bring out more details and glow to make me look more ethereal. Then duplicate the layer and find edges and diffuse to emphasize the outline. I'm following the FX Home tutorial for this effect. You can check it out from the card. It took me a lot of adjusting to find the settings I like, testing different blend modes, lowering the opacity, and adjusting brightness and contrast. Then I add a gleam effect and fine-tune the details some more. For the smoke, I add a fractal noise right on the edge layer and keyframes for position and scale to make it look like rising smoke. As I have two angles shot with different cameras, I save the effect chain preset and add it on the other composite shots. By comparing the two, I'm trying to make them look the same. It doesn't have to look exactly the same, so I'm happy with this result. Like in the first composite, I duplicate the layer to add the fine edges effect. To create some flowing dust around the character, I duplicate the layer again, remove all the effects, change the chroma key view to matte, and create another composite shot where I duplicate the layers. Set the keying view mode back to result on the top layer, add matte cleaner to bring out the outline, and then add a fill color effect to turn the top layer black. Back in the original comp shot, I'll add demult following the tutorial, but I don't see any effect. Then I'll add a mask to cut out the corner of my green screen. Now let's add atomic particles to the layer and adjust the settings to look like scattered specks floating around me. Then some more glow and diffuse to blend them in. I want to keep it subtle. Then let's copy the effect on the second camera angle. Create a new composite, duplicate layer, turn the key to matte, add it to result, fill color black, increase opacity, add demult for nothing. And then I copy and paste the FX chain from the other composite and paste it in. Then it's just playing with the values. This is a good start. Let's add a grade layer and curves and the same for the other composite. To make the ghost jump out more from the background, I duplicate both layers just to notice that the green screen is making the scene too dark, so I create a mask to cut it out. And I need to add the mask to both layers. Next, I'm adding vibrance that sometimes gives a nice effect, and it works here to some extent as well. Then I add LUT to match the ghost better with the background plate. Curves is a handy tool to add contrast with more control. And Cinestyle effect can make it look more convincing, but I try to keep it subtle here. Then I noticed that the gleam is casting dark rays on the video, which is the opposite what I had in mind. So after some tweaking, I decided to remove the effect. Time for a first render. For that I have a custom YouTube preset that simply has a higher bitrate to keep the quality. I found that the default YouTube preset causes artifacts sometimes, so it's a good idea to increase the target and max bitrate in the preset window. The first render didn't have enough smoke around it, so I created a new plane with a mask and fractal noise, and again animate the effect to look like rising smoke. Adding the heat distortion effect makes it look a little more ominous. Then some tint to give color and glow for a stronger effect. I duplicate the plane and change the second fractal noise to wisp type. Add diffuse, change the tint a little. Adjust the scale, bring down exposure, and change the blend mode to multiply. I move the layer to the bottom to take it down a notch. Time to apply the same effect on the other composite, so I'm adjusting. If you don't see the effect in the editor, make sure the layers are extended to cover the whole clip on the timeline. Here I realize that I'm moving, so I need to animate the mask to follow my movements. This is not the best way to do this. If I would do this again, I would use a white key matte, scale it up a little, use diffuse and some delay to match the movements closer, and without need for any keyframes for the mask. I'll try that next time. Here I notice that the wisp is not moving. To fix that, I add a keyframe for the seed and another in the end, increasing the value to 1. I'll do the same in the other composite. Time for a second render. This time I got some feedback and realized that now I went too far. It looks like I'm engulfed in some ghostly flames, and I'm too yellow. For the final fix, I reduce the tint and move some sliders around to lessen the effect. With this version, I added on top of the last one, lowered the opacity to 68 and changed the blend mode to luminosity. Doing this for the first time took me more hours than I thought, but I learned a new trick. It's also good to have someone else to give you feedback when creating effects, because it's easy to get blind to your own work. And this is how you can create a 3D background, use multiple angles, and make yourself look like a ghost, if you want to. Watch more videos here.